Hey everyone, and welcome to the Deep Dive. We're going to be talking about tech today.
Yeah.
Specifically, all those words that you hear when a new phone or a new anything comes out.
Right.
Like right now, everybody's talking about the new iPhone 16.
Mm-hmm.
And it can be kind of hard to understand what people are saying about it if you don't know the words that they're using.
Absolutely.
So that's what we're going to do today. We're going to focus on teaching you guys some new vocabulary to help you be able to understand the conversations about the new phone.
And to just understand technology in general, because it is a big part of everyone's lives now.
It really is. All right. So
Yeah.
the first word that we're going to talk about today is launch.
Okay.
So we hear all the time, oh, the iPhone 16 launch is happening,
Right.
on this date. What does that even mean?
Well, a launch is basically like the birthday of a new product. So it's like when it first becomes available to the public.
Okay.
It's kind of like when a rocket launches into space. It's like that big moment of like, ta-da,
Yes.
this new thing.
So it's like the very first day that it's available.
Exactly.
Okay, cool. So launch is like the big debut.
Yes.
All right, so now let's talk about features.
Okay.
All right. So features are things that people always talk about when a new phone comes out. Like, what are the new features
Yeah.
of the iPhone 16? What is a feature?
Yeah. So features basically mean what can the phone do? What are all the cool things that it offers? So like a camera is a feature.
Okay.
The ability to play music, those are all features.
Okay.
So when we talk about new features for the iPhone 16, we're talking about what new cool things can it do that maybe the last iPhone couldn't do?
So it's like all of the cool stuff.
Yes, exactly.
It can do.
All the cool things that it can do.
Okay, cool. So we have launch, we have features. Now, let's talk about upgrade.
Okay.
So this is something that you hear a lot if you already have an iPhone.
Right.
People are always saying like, oh, you should upgrade to the new iPhone.
Right.
What does it mean to upgrade?
To upgrade basically means to get a newer or a better version of something that you already have. So let's say you have an iPhone 13 and you want to get the iPhone 16. That means you're going to upgrade to the iPhone 16. You're getting a newer version.
Okay, so it doesn't just mean like I'm getting a different phone. It means I'm getting like the newer model.
Yes, exactly. You're getting the newer, better model.
Okay, got that. So upgrade, new and better.
Yes.
Cool. All right, so next we have a word that sounds a little bit more complicated.
Okay.
But it's actually not too bad. It's specifications.
Okay.
Now, I've also heard this shortened to specs.
Yes.
So what are specifications?
So specifications are basically all the technical details about a product. So it's things like how big is the screen,
Okay.
how much memory does it have, how fast is the processor,
Okay.
all those little details that tell you about how the product actually works.
Oh, so it's like all the dirty details.
Yes, exactly. All the dirty
Yeah,
details.
makes sense. All right, so launch features, upgrade specifications. Last but not least, we have user experience.
Okay.
So I feel like this is a very important thing when it comes to phones
It is.
because, it could have all the coolest features in the world, but if the user experience is bad, then nobody's going to want it.
Exactly.
So what does user experience mean?
So user experience basically means how does it feel to use the phone? Is it easy to use? Is it enjoyable to use? Does it make sense?
Right.
Like, do you get frustrated using it, or is it a smooth, nice experience?
So like, how do you feel when you're using the phone?
Exactly.
So it's like the overall vibe of the phone.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, so, user experience is super important these days, right? Like you were saying.
Yeah.
The phone could have all the best features, but if it's hard to use,
Right.
then nobody's going to like it. It's interesting how that's become such a big focus in technology.
Oh, really?
Like, it wasn't always like that.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
What was it like before?
Well, I think in the early days of technology, like way back when, people were mostly focused on just could the product do what it was supposed to do?
Okay.
Like, they didn't really care that much about if it was easy to use or fun to use or anything like that.
Just had to work.
It just had to work, right?
Okay.
But then as technology became more and more part of our everyday lives, and as products became more complicated,
Yeah.
I think companies started to realize that, like, hey, it does matter if it's easy to use.
Yeah.
Because if it's not, people are going to get frustrated and they're not going to want to use our product.
It has to be a good experience.
Exactly.
So it's not just about like the technology working, it's about how it makes you feel.
Yes, exactly. It's all about the feelings now.
Interesting.
Yeah. So that's why you hear that term user experience so much these days, because it's become like this really important thing that companies really focus on.
Yeah, that's cool. And what's cool about this whole deep dive is that we're learning new vocabulary, but we're also learning about like the bigger cultural impact of technology,
Right.
and how it's changed like everything, really.
Yeah, absolutely.
And actually, speaking of changing everything, we were talking earlier
Yeah.
about how the iPhone has kind of changed communication.
Right.
Like, it's changed the way that we talk to each other.
Right.
And even the words that we use when we talk about communication.
Exactly.
Like, now we say, I'll text you instead of I'll call you.
Right. Yeah, and I think that's a really good example of how, like,
Mm-hmm.
a change in technology can lead to, like, a change in our language,
Mm-hmm.
even a change in our behavior.
Yeah, because it's way more common to text somebody than it is to call them.
Right.
Pretty much.
And I think that's because texting is just like a different user experience than calling. Like, it's quicker, it's more casual, you can do it while you're doing other things.
Yeah.
So it just, like, fits into our lives in a different way.
It's more convenient.
Exactly.
It's very interesting how all of that is like,
Yeah.
all tied together.
It is. Like, technology influences our behavior, which influences our language.
Yeah.
It's all connected.
It's all connected. That's so cool. All right, so I'm kind of curious now.
Okay.
What do you think is next?
Oh, that's a good question.
Like, what's the next way that technology is going to change
Right.
the way that we communicate?
Mm-hmm.
Like, we went from calling to texting.
Uh-huh.
What do you think is after texting?
I don't know. I think that's a really
Big question.
It's a really big question. I mean, I think there's a lot of people working on things like virtual reality and augmented reality.
Yeah.
So maybe we'll all be, like, talking to each other through, like,
Yeah.
holograms or something.
Well, that's cool.
Yeah, or, like, you were saying before, like, what if we could just, like,
Send our thoughts.
send our thoughts directly to each other's brains?
That would be crazy.
That would be really wild.
But who knows?
I mean, it's hard to say. Like,
Yeah.
technology is changing so fast.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it's definitely something to think about.
Yeah. It's exciting to think about
Yeah,
all the possibilities.
absolutely. So we've been talking a lot about all these new tech words, right?
Yeah, it's kind of amazing how many words there are just to talk about one new phone.
I know, right? It's like a whole new language.
Yeah, but I feel like I'm starting to get the hang of it.
Me too. It's been fun learning all this new stuff.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, so before we wrap up this deep dive,
Okay.
I want to give our listeners a little challenge.
Ooh, a challenge. I like it.
Okay, so remember how we were talking about how the iPhone changed communication?
Yeah, like how we went from saying, I'll call you to I'll text you.
Exactly. So what do you think is the next big change going to be?
Ooh, that's a tough one.
I know it's hard to predict the future, but it's fun to think about.
It is.
Like, what's going to be the next texting?
Right, like what's going to be the next big communication technology?
Exactly. What do you think?
Well, I've heard people talking about, like, virtual reality and augmented reality. Like, maybe we'll all be wearing these headsets and, like, interacting with each other in these virtual worlds.
Whoa, that's like straight out of a sci-fi movie.
I know, right? But it could happen. Who knows?
Yeah, that would definitely change the way we communicate.
For sure. Like, imagine instead of texting someone, you could just, like, teleport into their virtual living room and hang out.
That would be so cool.
I know, right?
Or maybe we'll be able to, like, send messages with our minds.
Ooh, telepathy. Now that would be a game changer.
Right? Like, imagine just thinking about something and the other person instantly knows what you're thinking.
That would be wild.
Yeah, it's crazy to think about all the possibilities.
I know. But that's what's so exciting about technology, right?
It's always changing and evolving.
Exactly. So who knows what the future holds?
Yeah, maybe one of our listeners will invent the next big communication technology.
Maybe. And then we'll have to come up with a whole new set of vocabulary words to describe it.
Exactly. Well, on that note, I think it's time to wrap up this deep dive.
All right. Sounds good.
So thanks for joining us, everybody.
Yeah, thanks for listening.
We hope you learned some cool new tech words today.
And that you'll keep exploring the world of technology and all the amazing things it has to offer.
Absolutely. Until next time, keep on learning.